To whom it may concern, this is a plea. My name is Tamir Kreisman, and I'm a proud Jew living in Israel. I don't have thousands upon thousands of viewers. I couldn't care less about that, but only that these words not fall on deaf ears. God will do what he wants, obviously, exacting his perfect plan for each and every one of us. And as for me, as always, I can only do my best with the tools that I've been given. And so, these are my tools, and this is my message. This is a call to all the Jews around the world. It's time to come home. I understand that we are an eclectic bunch, as we come in all different colors, shapes, sizes, different sects, and what have you. And what I say to one group will not necessarily apply or appeal to the other. Nevertheless, they don't care what sect you're from. They don't care who you vote for. They don't care what you look like, and they don't care if you're rich or poor. And if you ask who are they, then have you not been paying attention to what is happening around the world, everywhere? They is everyone else. Granted, there are always individuals who love Israel and who wholeheartedly support the Jewish people. And as cool as that might be, they have no power or sway in the decisions of their governments and world events. We're talking about the individuals here. And at what point in history did the other nations rise up and stand with the Jews? When did that happen? If you point out the Holocaust, then you need but read a book or two. Do just a little bit of digging and see that no one actually stood with us. Not only did no one stand with us, but as we were being systematically slaughtered, erased by the millions. But the governments of the world knew very well what was happening and yet did nothing because it was inconvenient for them. And at times, they even assisted. And you better believe I'm also speaking of the good old US of A, right? The great friend of Israel. No, and never. My brethren, you are in hostile territory. You are beyond enemy lines over there, and so deeply entrenched in the system that you are not even aware that you are slaves to it. I also want to make something abundantly clear. I'm not speaking of the state of Israel, but the Holy Land of Israel. Same location, but two completely different things. They couldn't be further apart. This is another conversation entirely, and it's one that most people are just not ready to digest. Maybe later, in another teaching, we'll see what mood I'm in. Regardless, the things that will be said here will not be easy because it's the truth. Just know that everything that I say, everything, it's backed up according to the Torah and according to the sages, and so your quarrel should not be with me but with your Creator. If something upsets you, annoys you, doesn't sit right with you, then go ahead. Look up what I'm saying. Also, feel free to take these claims to your rabbi and see what he says. But remember, we have been taught since we were small children that even if our parents tell us to go against the Torah, right, to go against God, obviously, we are supposed to disobey our parents if they tell us to go against God and his mitzvot, right? How much more so if your rabbi is strongly preventing you from making aliyah through any means, worst of all, through fear or dismissal. Your rabbi will not be standing with you. You have to understand this. He will not be standing with you when you are judged before God, okay? Answers like, well, my rabbi said it was okay, they're not going to fly, especially if your rabbi said or suggested what he said or suggested contradicts the Torah and the sages. He will pay the price, but so will you. What happened to us Jews? We used to do our own research. Now you have 10 million Jews living outside of where they should be, relying on the rabbi to do the right thing. That being said, these teachings are only relevant if you consider yourself to be a God-fearing Jew. Listen to me. I didn't say religious. I said God-fearing. You could be doing close to zero, but you know who you are. You know that there is a God, and you know that you have a desire for that relationship, even if it hasn't exactly worked out. Okay? This is who I'm speaking to right now. Again, do not be scared by religiosity here. And then I'm going to show you why right now, dafka, from a place where everyone can agree is reputable, shall we say. This is what it says in the Zohar. Zohar Shmot 7:2. And if you are secular, then please definitely listen to this. Even if you know nothing about the Zohar, please just listen. It's short and to the point. Rabbi Shimon raised his hands to the heaven and began to cry over the length of the galut and said, "Woe to whomever has been appointed and found for the time of the coming of Mashiach." That's us, by the way, if you haven't noticed. But then in the very next sentence, he also says, "Praiseworthy is the lot of those that have been appointed and found for that time." Why woe to whoever has been summoned? Because when the Holy One, blessed be He, comes to redeem the Hind, who is the Shekhinah, look up Psalms 22, also known as the Psalms of Esther. That's what she was saying before she went to Achashverosh. When God looks to redeem, right, the Shekhinah from the Galut, He is going to look at who is standing with her. And He is going to examine each person who remained. There will be a remainder, she'erit. All their deeds will be examined, and He will not find a single person who is zakai, who has merit, or is a tzaddik. Okay? Nobody. You see, we are not a generation of tzaddikim, of righteous. That's not who we are. That's not our job. You're not a tzaddik. I'm not a tzaddik. I don't know who's a tzaddik today. Very few. You might be able to count them on one hand. All right? But it's nobody over here. He continues, "I looked to see if Israel had any merit to assist to the coming of the redemption, and among them I found none. And then so many troubles will befall them." That's Israel, right? Now wait for it, because it gets more comforting. "But praiseworthy, ashrei, whoever will be summoned for that time." Same group of people. "For whoever will remain at that time in faith, be'emunah, will merit the light of the king, blessed be He, for then God will be glad in His works. And regarding that time it is written, I will refine Israel to remove from them the partitions like one refines silver." What are these partitions? These are the klipot. And these klipot are what is separating us from the light of the Creator. And so why do we have to go through so much trouble? Because these klipot are not only external, but they're internal. It's not only the Gazans, okay? It's from amongst the Jews and from within ourselves, each and every one of us. Now, when we're talking about the internal, we're talking about, let's say, the Jews, right? We have, who is that? That would be the Erev Rav among us. They are the wicked ones of Israel. This is also our evil inclination within us and the bad habits that we have picked up throughout our lives of slavery to the system which we were just born into. So again, if you think you're free, you're not really so free. So how does one refine silver? You need to dip the whole thing into the fire. Everything goes in, right? All that is not pure will be burnt away, and all that remains, that's the real deal. But the process is going to be painful. To conclude the words of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai from the Zohar over here, and what I want to focus on is that we were not called to be a generation of tzaddikim, nor a generation of Torah scholars, or even a generation of Ba'alei Mitzvot. Like he said, no one truly on their own deeds or by their own merit should be standing. That's not what we're talking about, but rather we are called a generation of emunah, of faith. And that emunah, that faith, will be tried and tested until there is no doubt left and until it is clean and pure. Many will fall away. This we know already. So the only way to remain is to prepare and strengthen our faith before the times get tough. That's right, before, because you ain't seen nothing yet. If we remain in the same state as we are right now, while the trials become increasingly more difficult, only those who have been working on this with all their hearts might have a chance. This is where our own personal hishtadlut comes in. The Rambam says that we should not rely on God for miracles to save us when we can do for ourselves, when we have that opportunity to do for ourselves. And there's no easier way to do for ourselves than to simply be present in the land of Israel. That's the easiest mitzvah that you can possibly do. You just have to breathe. As a simple act of existing here, we rack up zchuyot upon zchuyot, merits upon merits, because we are fulfilling that which Moses desired to do most, to enter the land of Israel. Remember Moses, as in Torah Moshe, the Torah of Moses, that which you hold on to? He pleaded with God to enter the land, but he could not. And you can, but you are not. Why would you not? In 1983, my family made aliyah, okay? And I promise you, it was not easy by any means from my mom, all right? She was born and raised in Brooklyn, then living in Staten Island. I even felt a transition. I was 4 years old at the time. But it's much easier for small kids to adapt, and it's not a problem. My father, he was born in Israel. He was raised here. After he was done with his army career, then he went to the States. Supposed to be there for a few months, ended up staying there for 12 years, right? But he always believed with every fiber of his being that Jews belong in Israel. He wasn't wrong. He's not wrong. Okay, so it's bigger than just our own personal comfort levels over here. This was our responsibility so long as we have the privilege to call ourselves Jews. For him, the transition was easy. He was coming back home. But for my mom, that was not easy. Imagine for a moment what she left behind, okay? Here's how it was. We lived within a 2-block radius of her parents, my grandparents. So you got full-time babysitters over there, no problem. One of her sisters and family, my cousins, who I'm extremely tight with, and our flourishing young Israel community. I think it was the largest in the country at the time. We had everything there that helped us maintain our Judaism. We had a massive shul, several minyans, after-school programs, the JCC, the kosher restaurants, the kosher deli, the butcher shops, the Jewish day schools, surrounded by friends and family. It was, for lack of a better word, perfect. Almost. And then, Israel, 1983. Thank God for my grandparents, my mother's parents, instilling the love of Israel into their children, that my mom's upbringing and belief system was truly put to the test. I know all you guys out there, you support Israel and the Jews and this and that, but what are you doing about it? So my mother was put to the test in this case, and again, she left a seemingly perfect life. How much do you support Israel? You send money to the soldiers? Or is it enough to come visit on Hanukkah, when it's winter break, or Pesach when it's spring break? Or enough to endure Israel, maybe in 1983? What's going on? Buses at that point, I remember, they had hard wooden seats, no AC. There was one television station. Lines, standing in line, they were pretty much non-existent, as whoever had the sharpest and strongest elbows would make their way through the crowd to the bank teller, while the rest were just leaning on the side, all up in your business over there, seeing exactly what's going on. Customer service was non-existent. Okay, it's still non-existent, but whatever. It's, it's a small price to pay. Towns were half built and streets ran through what used to be sandy plains, swamps, orange groves, and chicken coops. There was one movie theater in our town that played God knows what dubbed version of a movie that came out years before. And all that, of course, hardly anyone spoke English. There were a few at that point, right? But it wasn't like it is today, which made it extremely difficult to adjust, especially to a born and raised American. For 12 long years, my mother struggled daily, not only missing the picture-perfect life she had left behind, but the battle in this unforgiving climate of Israel in the 80s and early 90s. And then, one day, it all changed. You see, my mother went back to the States for vacation to one of her other sisters living in an upscale New York community. And the time was Sukkot. And there, she said, they had the most beautiful sukkah. They prepared for 50 guests with every delicacy and kosher farm animal on the table. At that moment, when she saw all the hoopla that was happening over there, it hit her, as what she saw could never be unseen. It clicked. She told me this. She said, I see now how much Jews in America try their hardest to be Jews. With the big fancy this and the big fancy that and all this effort that went into being a Jew. Whereas in Israel, for me to be a Jew, there's nothing that I have to do but simply to exist. I'm paraphrasing, but roughly. At that moment, all her hardship, all her struggles, all her longing for the great US of A kind of disappeared, and it was replaced with gratitude and humility for the opportunity to be a Jew in the land of Israel. A land where we are all part of the greater picture, where we're all necessary pieces of the puzzle of Klal Yisrael, all of us. And this is the emunah that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was talking about. Coming here by faith. I know it's hard. We know it's difficult, but it's not about where is it most convenient to live. That's like the rest of the nations. We are not the rest of the nations. No one said it was going to be easy. To the contrary, we know for a fact that affliction or suffering is involved in this. So why would I want that, you say? Because you're a Jew. Welcome to the family. From Masechet Brachot 5a, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, it just so happened, the Holy and Blessed be He gave Israel 3 precious gifts, all of which were given only by means of suffering, isurim, which purified Israel so that they may merit to receive them. These gifts are Torah, Eretz Yisrael, and the world to come. From where is it derived that Torah is only acquired by means of suffering? As it says in Psalms 94:12. Fortunate is the man whom you, Yah, chastise, and from your Torah you teach him. Where does Eretz Yisrael come from? As it is written in Deuteronomy 8:5, you shall know in your heart that just as a man chastises his son, so does the Lord your God chastise you, because we are the sons of God. And it is written thereafter, for the Lord your God will bring you to a good land. You need to merit this. And the world to come, as it is written in Proverbs 6:23. For a commandment is a candle, and the Torah is light, and disciplining rebukes are the way of life. The Torah and Israel are mentioned separately, though they are directly connected, and only through both can you truly merit the world to come. The earlier you come to Israel, the more zchuyot you have. Israel today, and over the past 30 years, has not been what we experienced in the 80s. There is no excuse, not that there ever should have been. But you don't want to get caught outside. And it all comes down to tshuva, right? What is the word tshuva? Is lashuv, to return from whence you came. Come back to your place. It's all about coming to Israel, especially now. And that's something that can happen at any moment. The tshuva that starts from outside the land will bring you back to the land. The land of Israel itself redeems. Admat Eretz Israel mechaperet. We will speak of this in future teachings, okay? From Pirkei Avot 2:10, Rabbi Eliezer says, repent one day before your death. But wait, do we know when we are going to die? Well, that's a great question, and our sages ask it as well. From the Talmud, Masechet Shabbat 153a, we learned there in a Mishnah that Rabbi Eliezer says, repent one day before your death. Rabbi Eliezer's students asked him, but does a person know the day on which he will die? He said to them, all the more so that it is a good piece of advice and one should repent today, lest he die tomorrow. And by following this advice, one should spend his entire life in a state of repentance. What is tshuva? It's to move. It's to not be in the same place that you were. As much tshuva as you think that you are doing out there, wherever it is, that means you are actually, we're talking about physically, geographically moving you. From the Rambam's Hilchot Tshuva, Gimel, Teshuva atones for all sins, even if a person was wicked his entire life. But in his last days he does tshuva, his wickedness is never brought up again, as said in Ezekiel 33:12. And you, son of man, say to the members of your people, the righteousness of the righteous will not save him on the day of his transgression, and the wickedness of the wicked he will not stumble upon it on the day of his repentance of his wickedness. And a righteous man cannot live with it on the day of his sinning. I'm speaking right now because a lot of people, again, we're Jews, right? But we go from this to that. I'm throwing a wide net right now because everybody needs to do tshuva. And what I'm saying is the final place that you will actually see your tshuva be fulfilled is in the land of Israel. That's what this whole thing is about. But now listen to the next few verses, and I want you to be encouraged. When I say of the righteous that he will surely live, and he relied on his righteousness and committed injustice, none of his righteous deeds will be remembered. And for the injustices which he committed, he shall die. And when I say of the wicked man, you shall surely die, and he repents of his sin and performs justice and righteousness, the wicked man will return the pledge, he will repay the theft, in the statutes of life that he walked, not commit injustice, he will surely live, he will not die. In other words, stop doing what is causing you to sin. Not being in the land of Israel, which is a mitzvat aseh. You are sinning by not being in the land of Israel. You can turn this around and you cannot do complete tshuva unless you make that change. All his sins that he sinned will not be remembered for him. He performed justice and righteousness. He will surely live. Now, should the member of your people say, the Lord's way is not right, but their way is not right. When a righteous man repents of his righteousness, meaning returns from his righteousness to the other side, and commits injustice, he will die because of them. And when a wicked man repents of his wickedness and performs justice and righteousness, he shall live because of them. Coming here to Israel is by all means a fresh start. And it doesn't go unnoticed, obviously. In fact, it's for everyone's benefit, particularly your own. Think of it like this. If you could be a God-fearing, Torah-toiling Jew outside of the land of Israel, and while you live a good and moral life of Torah, right? A Torah-filled life, racking up mitzvah after mitzvah, simultaneously, you are having sins piled up against you every second of every day, simply due to the fact that you are not in the Holy Land of Israel when you could be. It's counterproductive. It's like you're in a boat and your boat has a hole in it, and instead of plugging that hole and rowing to safety, you have one hand on the oar and the other one you're just trying to splash out the water. You're going around in circles as you're sinking. If you have a chance to perform a positive mitzvah, mitzvah taseh, like we said, and you do not do it, woe to you. Why do you think baseless hate was what destroyed the temple, right? The second temple was destroyed because of sinat chinam. what is so significant about Sinat Chinam? It's the same reason, right? For canceling out a mitzvah taseh. Why is it so bad? Because while you were transgressing the negative command of lo tisna et achicha bilvavcha, and you shall not hate your fellow in your heart, while you're transgressing that because you are hating your fellow in your heart, you were also forsaking or canceling out the positive command, mitzvah taseh, you shall love your fellow like yourself. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You see? Meaning, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, for however long you've been around, you have been shunning this mitzvat aseh of settling in the land of Israel. But when you come and you settle in the land of Israel, guess what? It's all gone. It doesn't count for you because that's your tshuva. But if you wait, you're not going to get a chance to do it. We know this. Any person who says, yes, I'll sin today but repent tomorrow, from the heavens they will not give you a chance to repent. Don't go there. This is your reality right now if you are not in the land. Now, throughout this series, God willing, I'm going to bring different sources regarding the importance of Israel, the Jews, being in the land of Israel. This is kind of just an intro over here. There's so much more to be said. The many people that I've met over the years, specifically Orthodox Jews who don't live here, I would ask them all the same questions. So, oh yeah, they come to visit Israel. Oh, it's amazing. It's this, it's that, Great. When are you coming? You got to see that their countenance just completely change. I always get the same answers, right? And if you are currently not in Israel, then you know all those answers, right? I'm sure these are the same things that are running through your mind right now. As to not feel so bad as to why you're here. Well, I got this, I got that, I got this, I got... Sure, everything is an excuse, but the bottom line is, you're breaking mitzvah taseh. We'll discuss in a moment just how important that is. Which does not change the truth of the matter one way or another, that you have excuses. Because you know who won't give... an account, you're not going to give an account to me is what I'm saying, right? You got to give an account to God. So I just want to share a quick word from Rabbi Avraham Azulai. He was a 14th century Kabbalist from Morocco who did, of course, make aliyah himself to Israel, and the grandfather of the famous Chidah. And we will speak of him plenty later on, of Rabbi Avraham Azulai, from his book Chesed LaAvraham, because he talks all about the importance and the spiritual implications of being in the land of Israel and the absolute dangers of not being in the land of Israel. You have no idea. And you need to hear these things. This is for the sake of your soul. Nothing else matters right now. So from chapter 322, regarding whoever is alive in the land of Israel during the coming of Mashiach versus who is not. He says, now I'm just straight up translating, okay? He says, you should know there is a Masoret Kabbalah in our possession. Masoret Kabbalah beyadenu. An extrapolation from, and he brings it from Midrash Talpiot, that on the day that King Mashiach comes with the gathering of the exiles to Israel, because remember, that's one of the last things that is going to take place. Everything is going to happen in Israel beforehand. That's the show that everybody's waiting for. It's going to take place over here. So as we know, everyone's going to make aliyah before the clock runs out. If you wish to remain in that category, that's your business, okay? But whoever makes aliyah before, yeah, okay. So in any case, when this happens, when Mashiach comes with the remaining exiles, when they come to the land, it says 7,000 will remain of the children of Israel, meaning of the males, right? This, of course, is referring to 1 Kings 19:18, where God tells Elijah, and I will leave over in Israel 7,000, all the knees that did not kneel to the Baal, and every mouth that did not kiss him. Now, so we're talking about 7,000, okay? Now, when we read this, I mean, talk about taking the wind out of our sails. What do you mean only 7,000 are going to remain? It's rather disheartening, wouldn't you say? Also, who in their right mind would think that they will be of the 7,000 who will remain? Not me, right? And I obviously, realistically speaking, no, right? Fortunately for us, the Chidah, Rabbi Yosef Azulai's grandson, okay? Rabbi Yosef Azulai was Rabbi Avram's grandson. He spoke on this matter that his grandfather said that only 7,000 are going to remain. He said this would not be the case, because then what kind of redemption would that be? That's beyond judgment of judgment of judgment. Also, that can't be. We know that there's going to be 600,000. So we read in Isaiah 54:7, "For a small moment I have forsaken you, and with great mercy will I gather you. Berega katan azavtich uberachamim gdolim akabtzech." So we know that the final redemption is going to be rachamim gdolim, great mercy, I will gather you. So like we said, the minimum amount of children of Israel that must be in Israel in order to unlock the redemption is 600,000. Just the same amount that left Egypt, the same amount that were on Mount Sinai. So we can take that as a sign of relief as far as the 7,000 goes. But he continues, during that time, the dead that are in the land are going to rise, and the walls of Jerusalem will disappear, the ones that were built by the nations, right? And God will build new walls, completely made up of jewels and precious stones. And all the dead that came back to life in the land of Israel will become new spiritual creations. And also the 7,000 that remain, those that were alive here and that remained. So like we already know, it's going to be more. During that time will also become a new spiritual creation. Everybody found in the end of days in the land of Israel were going to be half physical, half spiritual, more so even spiritual than physical. The commentary on this line says the following: those who chose to remain in Israel, who had no regard for their own physical well-being, but rather chose to be there to honor God by coming to the land of Israel. Let's continue. They, like those who were raised from the dead, will receive a body like Adam before the sin, and like the body of Enoch and Moshe Rabbeinu, alav shalom, and Eliyahu, and they will all float or fly around the air like eagles. And all this will be witnessed by the gathering of the exiles, those that made a conscious choice to remain outside the land of Israel. And when those people, the Jews, who are only coming to Israel after all the balagan took place, in other words, they're going through a tough time over there, we'll just wait here until it's over and then we'll come. Who do you think is watching? Who do you think you are dealing with? You are concerned with your own hide. What does the rabbi say? All those people who are coming only after the ruckus see their brethren become new creations and flying in the air to dwell in the Garden of Eden to learn Torah from the mouth of the Holy One, blessed be He. Then they will all gather together and their heart will become worried. They will be troubled. Their nefesh will become heavy and bereaved, and they will cause a ruckus aimed at King Mashiach. They're going to come into Mashiach and say, but surely we are also the children of Israel, like them. And why have they merited to be spiritual beings in their body and nefesh, unlike us? And why are we lacking? To which Mashiach will reply to them, the attributes of the Holy One, blessed be He, are already very well known, that everything is midah keneged midah, measure for measure, meaning you get what you give. Those who used to be outside the land of Israel after much turmoil did their hishtadlut, their utmost to come to the land of Israel in order to merit the nefesh tehorah, the holy nefesh. And again, we will discuss this in upcoming teachings. And they were not concerned with their body, meaning with their own safety, or their wealth. And they came by land and by sea. Today, also by air. It's not that big of a deal to come to Israel yet. And they were not concerned by drowning in the sea or by getting robbed by land or taken captive by the decree of harsh overseers. Because over the last 2,000 years, though there was a Jewish presence in the land, always, it was ruled by different kingdoms and empires. But for the sake of their spirit and soul, they did this. And therefore they have returned to spiritual, literally, midah keneged midah. Listen up now, my brethren. I'm telling you this. Wherever you may be, may this next part enter your Jewish soul. Please hear me. Rabbi Azulai continues. but you, who had every chance to come to the land of Israel, just as they did, but you did not do so, for the love and covetousness of mammon, wealth, money, convenience, and you were not concerned, and you were concerned for your bodies and your lifestyle, which you have made a priority, while your ruach, your spirit, and nefesh, you made mundane. That is why you remain physical, absent of their spirituality. That's a lot. But wait, there's more. And since you coveted the covetousness of wealth, behold, God will give you wealth. God's going to hook you up. Don't you worry now. You're still his kids, but you wanted wealth? You got it. God will give you wealth without measure for all the silver and gold and precious jewels and stones that have been taken by the sea throughout time. Behold, the sea has been ordered to bring it all to Jaffa, Yaffo, of all places, right? For everything that had sunk in the seas since the 6 days of creation until the time of Solomon has vomited up by the sea to Jaffa, to King Solomon, and from there he got his wealth, like the ridiculous amounts of wealth we're talking about. And from that time of Solomon until the time of the gathering of the exiles, it will all come once again to the sea of Jaffa, which will be spat upon the land, and King Mashiach will distribute it to every tzaddik and tzaddik according to the portion that he has earned, as said in Deuteronomy 33:19. They will call peoples to the mountain. There they will offer up righteous sacrifices, for they will be nourished by the abundance of the seas and by the treasures hidden in the sand. Now we understand this verse. And all the treasures beneath the ground, the earth will create tunnels so that the wealth of previous kingdoms and empires will bring them all to the land of Israel, so that they can be distributed to the people who have come in the gathering of the exiles, to each and every one according to his lot that he merited. And they will be sated with mammon rav, with great wealth. So he concludes, and all this will go to those who were concerned about their own wealth and own well-being and remain physically sated with great wealth. That's as high as you go. But those who did not concern themselves with their bodies and mammon, their well-being and their wealth and their conveniences, as discussed, but only rather for their ruach and nefesh, Hashem Yitbarach, the blessed God, will do them many good things, making them into new spiritual creations and escort them to the terrestrial Garden of Eden. I hope you understand what I just read. There are levels to receiving, lekabel, Kabbalah, from God. Even in Mount Sinai, I'm sure you guys didn't know this. Our sages were clear that everyone heard exactly the same thing, right? So there shouldn't be any kind of mix-up as to what the commandments of God are. They all heard the same thing, but not everyone saw the same thing. Our sages say that each person saw, or rather had a different experience based on that individual's level. So, what did they see differently? The deeper meanings of the letters and the words that were before their very eyes, right? Vayiru et hakolot. They saw the voices. What does this mean? Read all the sages over there. Read the Mefarshim. They received understanding, meaning binah, havana, that's understanding, because the Shekhinah was able to dwell with them more so than with others, right? Who put in less. The more refined you are, the more you can receive. So the fact that you are a Jew, good for you. We all know that the responsibilities we have, not only the amount of commands we agreed to live by, but what is riding on us actually playing our part and doing our job is literally what holds the world from coming apart. God would have destroyed the world if Israel would not receive the Torah. We know this. We're not talking about the days where the Christians tried to lay claim to the land and failed, as the land vomited them out as an empire, and will do so again as individuals. No churches are going to be standing here anymore. Or the Muslims who are still trying to lay claim. Don't worry, their time is coming. We're not talking about those days over the last 1,000 years, Those were hard times, right? And yet there was always a Jewish presence in the land of Israel. God bless them. We're talking about today. Today. And you know what? Not even over the last 75, 76 years, okay? I get it, whoever was here at the time, plus the Holocaust survivors, they had to come here, they had to fight, there wasn't anything. We all saw Cast a Giant Shadow. Watch it. They dropped soda bottles from a Cessna plane and made a whew, dropping empty barrels from the top of the mountain, creating mass hysteria at the bottom. It's very cool. It's entirely Nes Mishamayim that we won any war till this time. But I get it. You didn't have to come back then. We're talking about tough times. Half of you probably weren't even alive anyway. There was nothing in terms of infrastructure or any semblance of order. But what about, let's say, after the Six-Day War? What about in the 70s? Hey, we all had bell bottoms here, right? Sideburns and Speedos just the same. But I get it. There was the Yom Kippur War in 73. People were still afraid. Okay, no problem. How about the 80s? We had poofy hair, mustaches, and mullets could all be found in Tel Aviv, right? In the streets of Tel Aviv. But the Lebanon War, 82, and then the Intifada, it was so scary. People were still afraid. Okay, no problem. The 90s? I mean, life was really good in the 90s, until the Oslo Accords in 93, and then things just started blowing up here. So scary, but no problem. The 2000s? Excuses. The 2010s? Even more excuses. So when you had the opportunity to come to the Holy Land of Israel, when you would not be persecuted, and you could live comfortably here, establish a home, be part of an Anglo community. Yeah, we have those. And you didn't? Don't even worry about not speaking Hebrew. I mean, Mom, I love you, but she's been here since 1983 and she barely gets a sentence out in Hebrew. You don't need to speak Hebrew right now. It's all good. Now, this is not me saying this, but you will hear it as we read from the mouth of Mashiach. Why didn't you come? You had a chance, but you did not. If you are fortunate enough, of course, to survive what is to come on the outside, because I'm sure we all know very well what's written in our prophets, yes? That 2/3 of the world are going to be destroyed, except, of course, the third that Israel is in. It's in your book. You should know these things. Do your rabbis not teach you that? Zechariah 13:8. And it shall come to pass throughout all the land, says the Lord, 2 parts of it shall be cut off. They shall perish, and the third shall remain therein. And then that third, that's where we go through the refining over here in Israel. Read all the commentary. Don't ask your rabbi what he thinks about it. Just read the commentary. This isn't the land of Israel. This is the world that 2/3 of the land are going to be destroyed. And so if you choose not to come to Israel when you could have, assuming, and that's a big assumption because it says they shall perish. Okay, assuming you survive the destruction and you are brought here simply due to the fact that God always makes good on his word, right? Gathering the exiles, you will not be on the same level as those who stuck it out here. Money and comfort are what concern you in this world. Then your world to come will be filled with money and physical comfort. And there's your roof. You're capped. But those who were not concerned and came here, or were concerned and came here anyway, money is irrelevant to them. You can drive your fancy cars, but whoever's here is going to fly. You can build for yourselves wonderful gardens in the back of your incredible mansions, but you will not have access to the Garden of Eden. When that day comes, like we read, your soul will be troubled. And what's really going to rattle your cage is the fact that a person with no Torah, who is here in the land of Israel, has more zchut than any one of you who dwells outside the land of Israel. From Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, chapter 8. And if you don't know who Rabbi Eliezer Hagadol, the Great, is, he was the teacher of Rabbi Akiva and the student of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. In this chapter, he speaks of Ibul Halavana, counting of the new moon, the conception or inception of the year. Basically, the right or the zchut to keep God's timelines, to count the days and the months, thereby allowing the world to continue to turn. That's what this is. You can check out, it's on the channel over there. It's in the Purification Rabbi Eliezer series. It's called Immaculate Conception. I did that on purpose. It's not what you think, obviously. Okay, creation, the fourth day. I speak about this in detail. He says the following. From here, our sages say, even if there are tzaddikim and chasidim, or chachamim, or wise, in chutz la'aretz, and a sheep herder, or a cattle herder in the land, meaning one who has no Torah at all. There is no ibul of the year, only by the hands of the herder. He continues, even prophets in chutz la'aretz and common folk in the land, it is done so through the common folk. So, if you think that being an Orthodox Jew means anything, if you are not in the land of Israel, at this time. In fact, it should upset you very much that a secular Jew here in Israel, covered in tattoos and piercings, not keeping mitzvot, maybe occasionally attending the, gay day in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem, is considered by God to be on a higher level and have more zchut than you or your rabbi and all your Orthodox community combined, simply because they are in the land of Israel. As it is by their merit that the world is still turning, despite the fact that their brethren are choosing to ignore the command that is equal to all the commands in the Torah, and that is to settle the land of Israel. That's just another point. Now, regarding the coming destruction, if you think your chances of survival are great, I'm doing a bunch of things here if you noticed. Reasons for you to be here and reasons for you not to be there. You get to choose. If you think your chances for survival are great, allow me to burst your bubble just a bit more. Ask your rabbi, what was the percentage of Israelites who left Egypt during the Exodus? I'll wait. It's 20%. Exodus 13:8. So God led the people around by way of the desert to the Red Sea, or to the Yam Suf, and the children of Israel were armed when they went up out of Egypt. Armed? Yeah. ויסב אלוהים את העם דרך המדבר ים סוף, וחמושים עלו בני ישראל מארץ מצרים. חמושים, our sages say, אחד מחמישה יצאו, 1 out of 5 left, וארבע חלקים מתו בשלושת ימי אפלה, and 4 parts, 4/5 died in the days of darkness. And as we say every Shabbat and Musaf, הן גאלתי אתכם אחרית כראשית, להיות לכם לאלוהים. Just like the first redemption, so too will be the last. You understand? 20%? Think of all the Jews in the world today. As of last year, 2023, the numbers were around 15.7 million, with 46% in Israel. 20% of that entire number is only 3.1 million, okay? And I'm telling you now, not all the Jews in the world today are real kosher Jews. I'm not talking about whether you're Orthodox or secular. I'm talking about a legitimate, real Jew with a nefesh of a Jew. Okay? That number shrinks even more. In fact, Rabbi Chaim Vital, the Marchu, the student, the great student of the Arizal, who wrote down all the works that we have from the Ari were written by the Marchu. In fact, the Arizal told the Marchu, I am the only reason that I came down to this world to teach you these things. So Rabbi Chaim Vital, who was supposed to be the Mashiach of his generation, mind you, he writes this in the book Sefer HaGilgulim, not Shar HaGilgulim, not the Gates of Reincarnation, the Book of Reincarnation, 95b. He says that the majority of Jews, and he wrote this 450 years ago, the majority of Jews in our generation are Erev Rav. If you want to know who the Erev Rav are, look through my channel. I give crazy classes over there about the Erev Rav down to detail. Just, put the little magnifying glass thing, right? Erev Rav, you'll find them. Now, don't forget, we still need 10 tribes to come back as well. It's not just the Jews, right? We are a mixture of all the tribes, primarily of the tribe of Judah and Benjamin. But we need 10 lost tribes. And so that number shrinks even more of who is a legitimate Jew today. But now you might be thinking, well, surely, as a God-loving Orthodox Jew, if I learn Torah, as our sages say, it's equal to all the mitzvot, right? V'talmud Torah keneged kulam. It should be okay, right? As I was hinting before, I have a surprise for you. From Sefer Charedim 57b, it says, it is a positive command, and we know this, obviously, he's stating a fact. It is a positive command, mitzvat aseh, from the Torah, to live in the land of Israel, as said in Deuteronomy 17:14. When you come to the land, ki tavo la'aretz, not if you come to the land, if you decide, if it's convenient, if you're retiring. No, when you come to the land, that's the only reason why God took us out of Egypt, to bring us into the land of Israel. This is where we unlock everything. When you come to the land, the Lord your God is giving you, and you possess it and live therein. And our sages say that this mitzvah of settling of the land is equal to all the mitzvot of the Torah. So yes, a secular person living in the land of Israel who does no Torah has more Torah than a person who keeps all the Torah, which is impossible because you're not in the land of Israel, outside the land of Israel. Makes sense. So who's telling the truth here? Learning Torah, living in Israel? You tell me. Mishnah Avot 2:8, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, the teacher of Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, received the oral tradition from Hillel and Shammai. He used to say, if you have learned much Torah, do not claim for yourself. Don't say, yay, good for me, because for such a purpose you were created. Like I said, we're Jews. Great. But we need to take responsibility as Jews and live as Jews. And you cannot fulfill that purpose if you are not in the land of Israel. Let's not get all high and mighty if we do the basics. Avot 3:9. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa says, anyone whose deeds exceed his wisdom is enduring. But anyone whose wisdom exceeds his deeds, his wisdom is not enduring. Actions are always stronger than learning, right? The purpose of learning Torah is to actually live according to it. You cannot learn from the Torah of Moses, but not do that which Moses yearned more than anything else to do. Because what's the purpose of learning Torah if not to physically fulfill it? Avot 3:17. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, when there is no Torah, there is no right conduct. Where there is no right conduct, there is no Torah. Where there is no wisdom, there is no fear of God. Where there is no fear of God, there is no wisdom. Where there is no understanding, there is no knowledge. Where there is no knowledge, there is no understanding. Where there is no bread, there is no Torah. Where there is no Torah, there is no bread. He used to say, one whose wisdom exceeds his deeds. Here you go. To whom that may be compared? To a tree whose branches are numerous, but whose roots are few. So that when the wind comes, it uproots it and overturns it. As said, he shall be like a bush in the desert, which does not sense the coming of good. It is said in the scorched places of the wilderness, in a barren land without inhabitant. This is from Jeremiah 17:6. But one whose deeds exceed his wisdom. You don't need to be a Torah scholar. You just need to come to the land of Israel. To what may he be compared? To what may you be compared? If you know nothing and yet come to the land of Israel, how much more so if you are a Torah scholar or a Torah observant Jew? A tree whose branches are few but roots are many, so that even if all the winds in the world come and blow upon it, they cannot move it out of its place. What's God going to do before the coming of Mashiach? Rattle the world. You will not move from your place. As said, he shall be like a tree planted by waters, sending forth its roots by the stream. It does not sense the coming of heat. It leads after every fresh. It has no care of a year of drought. It does not cease to yield fruit. Jeremiah 17:8. It's difficult to call yourself a Torah-observant Jew, I say, yet not fulfill such a powerful command that is at our fingertips. You can do this. Don't have the, well, I got this and I got that. Okay. Mishnah Avot 4:5. I hope you're getting a picture here. Rabbi Ishmael, son of Rabbi Levitas, a man of Yavna, said, "He who learns in order to teach, it is granted to him to study and to teach. But he who learns in order to practice, in order to do, yes, it is granted to him to learn and to teach and to practice." Again, I'm showing you the main thing, the main focus of all the Torah is to do it. Talmud Ta'anit, Masechet Ta'anit 7a. It is taught in a Braita that Rabbi Bena'ah would say, anyone who engages in Torah for its own sake, his Torah study will be an elixir of life for him. As stated, it is a tree of life to them who lay hold upon it. Proverbs 3:18. Etz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomchem ma'ushar. And it says, it shall be health to your navel. Proverbs 3:8. And it says, for whoever finds me finds life. Proverbs 8:35. What is for its own sake? For the sake of learning in order to do. And anyone who engages in Torah not for its own sake, his Torah will be an elixir of death for him. As it is stated, my doctrine shall drop, ya'arof, as the rain. And alifa means nothing other than killing. La'arof is actually to decapitate. As stated, and they shall break the heifer's neck. Arfu, there in that valley. Deuteronomy 21:4. Why is learning Torah and yet not living Torah an elixir of death? As our sages call it, sam mavet. Why? You know a lot of Torah, right? Very simple. If you believe that you can live as a Jew outside of the land of Israel, no matter how many mitzvot you do, or how objectively well you live, and let's be real, we all fall short. But if you are caught when it all hits the fan, you will literally die. You're dead. There's nothing, what am I doing this for? Right now, you might be getting a trickle. And let's say you are not an Orthodox Jew. Let's say you're secular, and none of this speaks to you. Just remember, our enemies do not care what party you voted for. They do not care how woke or liberal you are. They don't care how you present yourself or what side of the picket line you stand on, how you identify. They don't care. They, like the Gazans and the Nazis before them, do not care. The towns that got hit around Gaza, they welcomed the Gazans. They called them their brethren. They were all about open borders. Sure, come in. They had them in their homes. That's how the Gazans knew how many family members were in each home. They would go to Hamas and they'd be like, in this home, you got 5 people. Here are their names. She makes an excellent cheesecake. And this home and that's how we got the lists already. They were never your friends. And these guys were the most leftists of all left. They were advocating, bring them in, and now look what happened. Nazis before them, what? The Jews back then, we are German citizens. This will never happen here. And yet, what has happened? They don't care. It is our enemies who will remind you who you are, lest you forget. It is our enemies who will remind you of your responsibility, for you have forgotten. We are not called to be a light unto the nations from around the world. Not anymore. It says, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Not from Brooklyn, not from Muncie or Beverly Hills or anywhere else. Tzion. That is where the Torah comes from. Now, I realize that most, if not almost all Jews, either in the US, England, or France, they have no clue just how late the hour is. That's why I'm doing this. Because if you guys did, you would have been here yesterday. You have to understand, this is no longer your parents' America, as the great leaders of yesteryear are long gone, and anti-Semitism is skyrocketing. You believe you're safe in your communities, but those who wish you dead don't care what street you are, right? It's not going to stop them from coming to the Jewish part of town. A fence is not going to stop them from entering your community. It's like there's a spiritual dark cloud over your eyes. You can't even see what is right in front of you. And you won't until it's too late. Again, are you waiting for Jews to be killed in the streets? Right now they're getting pummeled. You see what comes next, right? You don't see how the media, the schools, the academic institutions, the so-called leaders and politicians do not like you? You believe because you pay taxes and are exemplary members of society that you are safe. What I'm saying is inevitable. And again, I'm going to back up everything that I'm saying from the books, okay? Don't take it up with me. Coming from descendants of Holocaust survivors, like the majority of the Ashkenaz world, this goes beyond ignorance at this point. This is straight up stupidity. Very much you should guard your nefesh. That's not happening by staying in a place that's about to explode. You understand this happened before, right? Okay. We still have witnesses to talk about it, how it all started slowly but surely. And guess what? It's happening exactly today in America. How slow yet steady rise of Jew hatred that ended with the deaths of over 7 million of our people. Yeah, I know what I said. Okay? They downplay the numbers. And despite everything that is currently happening, you are choosing a foreign land over your own. You have a land with your name on it. For what? Convenience. Everything else is an excuse. The only reason I'm doing these videos is because I have Jews around the world whose eyes are actually open to the truth, yet their families, friends, communities, and their rabbis absolutely refuse to see what is at their door, at your door. I still have friends and family in the States. It's not going to matter. I try. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep screaming like a maniac. I don't care if you call me a maniac. What am I doing this for? Who am I trying to save? In this series, God willing, there will be a series. We'll discuss not only why you should absolutely leave any foreign land, as you are harming yourself and the greater Israel every minute that you are there, but also the benefits of being where you need to be, right here. We'll also discuss a few end-time prophecies just to show you that what exactly is happening over here, and that God has mercy on you over here, and may he have mercy on you if you are caught outside of our borders. So let's see how long these classes go, because personally, I think it's more beneficial to help the Jews already living in Israel to get stronger in our faith, as opposed to pleading with Jews outside the land of Israel to come back, especially now. Because if you can't see it, I honestly don't know what to say. We're all reading the same books. That's why I'm going to give you sources, and going forward, I'm going to show you where you could read these things. But why do you need all this to convince you when you could be completely secular, not read Torah at all, but see, Jews don't have a future anywhere outside the land of Israel. Nevertheless, this is my hishtadlut. Like I said, we can only do the best that we have, the best that we can with the tools that we have. These are my tools, so I'm doing my best. I don't know what else to do. If there was something more that I knew that I could do, I would do it. And yes, you better believe that I'm frustrated. Do you know what 1 million God-fearing Jews would do in the land of Israel? If 1 million God-fearing Jews made aliyah today, do you know what kind of a difference that would make? How it would change the tide spiritually speaking, and then obviously would manifest physically? I guarantee you that here, 9 months ago, that would not have happened. The gates are closing, but people can't see it. No one should be left behind unless, of course, you choose to remain. That's your choice. Everything is free will. And that, as said in Ezekiel 33, Son of man, speak to the members of your people and say to them, when I bring armed attackers upon you, and the people of the land take one man from among themselves and appoint for him as their lookout, and he sees the army coming upon the land, and he sounds the shofar and warns the people, and whoever hears the sound of the shofar and does not take heed, and the army comes and takes him, his blood will be upon his own head. He heard the sound of the shofar and did not take heed, his blood will be upon him, for had he taken heed, he would have saved his life. But the lookout, should he see the army coming and not sound the shofar, hey guys, time to go. And the people did not take heed, and an army came and took a soul from them. He was taken for his iniquity. And what did we say before? We all got iniquity. Vatikach mehem nefesh hu ba'avono nilkach. We all have avonot. Being outside the land of Israel is not helping you cleanse your avonot, which means you will be taken. But I shall require his blood from the hand of the lookout as well. There are millions of lookouts here in Israel, and we are all screaming, but it is not enough. I know I'm not the only one, but like I said, I have to do my part because it is my responsibility as a Jew, as Kol Israel Arevim Ze Lazeh. I hope somehow this helps. It can move, if it can move, even one family just coming to Israel from just hearing this, making aliyah, dayenu, right? It was all well worth it. So I'll continue this series for my long lost brethren out there. That's all I can do. In the hopes that something sits well with you and you make the move before time runs out. At least, and I say this to everyone, at least open an aliyah file, okay? Just do it. It's not that difficult. Start getting your papers in order before the other people start asking you for your papers, okay? At least get it on file. So if you have to go and have a to-go bag and you'll be lucky enough that you can go. Just at least do that, okay? Continue with your cushy lives. That's fine. But open up an aliyah file. As the real rabbis in Israel say, not the ones who are bought and paid for, say, no, it's all good. Israel's going to expand its borders, so we're all in his. None of that stuff. Show me in the Torah that I'm quoting sources for you over here. But those who genuinely care about Israel, the rabbis who genuinely care about Israel, the real ones, they say that you can either come here now with your wealth, or you will be lucky to get out alive with the clothes on your back. Make no mistake, this will not be easy by any means, but it is the truth. And your lives and the lives of your children and families quite literally depend upon this now. So stay tuned for what's to come. And please, whoever you are out there, Jew or Gentile, please pass these teachings, pass this teaching along. And from this series to come, pass these along to any Jew that you know, okay? Cast a wide net, let God do the rest. By doing so, should anybody be making aliyah, coming back where they need to go, you are assisting the Jewish people, and this will be accredited to you. God sees all, yes? Please help bring God's children, the children of Israel, back home. Okay, so if anyone out there has any questions about anything, okay, my email is below, thetentafabraham@gmail.com. Any questions regarding the aliyah process, how to prepare, who to speak to, where to go, how to get it done, life in Israel, anything. Or even if you just need a pep talk, okay? Please send me a quick, brief email. I will be happy to give you a call. That is why I'm here, okay? I don't get money off of this. I don't get paid to do this. I do this because the hour is late and our people are asleep. And we need you. We need all of you. Like I said at first, this is a plea to all the Jews around the world. The alarm has been sounded, and I pray to God that you hear it. My name is Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and I hope to see you all here very soon. Thank you. God bless.